What's up, all you hack and teaching pros out there? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, aka The Guru, where it is my mission in life to tease out the habits, life lessons, secrets to success, as well as to discuss the technical teaching and coaching ideas you can apply to your career and your life immediately to help you achieve better results from your students and your life. Huge gratitude to all the high performers that have come on the show thus far and their willingness to share their knowledge and expertise with all of you. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing and supporting the podcast. On this episode, I have a very special guest, the head of my mastermind crew, the secret sauce behind all of my success and the love of my life, my wife, Tiffanie Sutton, aka Mrs. Guru. Why would I have her on the show? There is not a better person to interview than one that has lived through being married to a PGA professional for over 25 years, a junior golf parent for over 8 to 9 years, to a Division I golf recruit, and has had to be the mediator or sometimes maybe the referee at times to a top instructor working with his son and the challenges these areas all create. On this show, we dive into all of these three areas as well as some stuff about me that you may not have known. So without further delay, let's get to this very informative, very transparent, and provocative at times conversation with my wife, Tiffanie Sutton. I'd like to welcome to the show my head of my mastermind crew. Big part of my success would not be where I'm at without this young lady and the love of my life, Mrs. Tiffanie Sutton, aka Mrs. Guru. Thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, I guess. Not sure how this will go, but we'll see.
This is going to be awesome. I think you're going to have a lot of insight that the listeners are going to enjoy and appreciate. And then this is for all the ladies that have been married to PGA professionals for over those years, right?
I guess so.
You get your say.
I'm sure I'm going to get some kind of merchandise out of doing this for the next hour with you, right?
You'll get a Golf Guru t-shirt.
Oh, thanks.
For sure.
Some Golf Guru swag.
Yeah, but I think you have so much to share because I think you're three things that would be interesting to the listeners. One, you're the wife of a PGA professional for 25 years. 26 years, yeah, counting the time we've been together. You're a junior golf parent of a kid that's gone through the recruiting process and we're sort of at the end of it, but I think that's going to be interesting. And then also you're what do you call a mediator or a liaison to... Moderator to a dad-coach relationship of a top coach trying to teach his son.
Probably a little divorce attorney in there as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say you wear a lot of hats, and like I said at the beginning, you definitely are the glue that holds this family together for sure. But also have been such a help to me over the years, and you know that. But now you get to share some of the stories, and this might be the last podcast that I ever do.
Of us as a married couple, maybe.
Right.
You might not like what I have to say.
Yeah.
Your listeners might like it. But
yeah, I think they're probably going to enjoy it. So let's start from the beginning. I mean, you had a very sports background and upbringing as a child. So let's start from, where did you grow up, and talk a little bit about your sports background. And then we'll get into how we met.
Well, I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia, was born and raised there, graduated from Marshall University, played softball and basketball and volleyball all through high school, really, and then didn't play sports in college, and met you when I was a sophomore, my first semester of my sophomore year of college.
Where'd you go to college?
I just said I graduated from Marshall
Oh,
University.
yeah. So, but don't skip over it. You were an all-state basketball player.
Yeah, that's not important.
Yeah,
we're not talking about that. That is not important. Even though our children probably did get their athletic ability from me.
Oh, there's no doubt.
But we don't need to go through all that.
Yeah, but I mean,
and we will say that I did beat you in a game of basketball very fairly at that. So we'll just try to throw that out there.
Shots fired early in the podcast.
Continue to deny that like you have for the last 24 years.
I just don't remember it that way.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. That's exactly how it happened.
Right. So like you said, we met when you were in college. Like give me your perspective on that, because I mean, I think it. I have my side of the story. We've talked about this many times, but I think there's so many ethic violations that were probably broken.
Well, let's see. I think my parents met you first because you were the assistant golf pro at the country club my parents belonged to, which was Sleepy Hollow Golf Club in Hurricane, West Virginia. And my mom wanted you to go dancing with her and you agreed to it, but I don't think that ever really happened that day. And then, my parents just loved you and they kept saying, why don't you go buy some clothes at the golf shop? The overrated $200 sweaters that you can get at the mall for $50. They're like, why don't you go buy some clothes? So I did. And then we met, and there was a Marshall game that weekend, and I invited you to come tailgate with us because my parents used to do huge tailgates for all the Marshall football games. So I invited you over to tailgate with us, probably not thinking, we'd probably see each other because it was always so crowded.
Right.
And you
pre-cell phone too, right? I mean, think about that.
No cell phone. I think maybe there were pagers, but we didn't. Neither one of us had a pager then.
Yeah.
But no cell phones. And just so happened, I ran into you on my way to the bathroom at the in the football stadium.
Yeah.
And
you'll never believe that I was actually looking for you.
Yeah, you say that, but I think we literally just ran into each other.
I'm telling you, I'm not lying.
And then you came tailgated at the tailgate with us, and I think the next day maybe we went on a date together. And I should have known then what I was getting into because you had a golf tournament the next day, and I ended up ironing your clothes and fixing you dinner. So I should have known then to get out while I could, but you sucked me in and I stayed. So
you're such a keeper. I could not.
Yeah. After I ironed your clothes, and I think I made you chicken and dumplings out of a can, which was probably scrumptious.
I think. Well, it was from my pantry of my bachelor little
pad.
1-bedroom apartment. So so we've come a long way since then for sure.
Yeah.
And that was history right there, because then I don't think we were apart.
Yeah, I don't think we were
for a long time.
Well, I mean, I think we were pretty much inseparable, hence the reason I got a 1.5 GPA that semester of college. And then my grades came in and my dad very sternly said, you have one semester to get this up. So my last semester of college, we were getting married in June, and it was my last semester of college, and I had to take 21 hours to make up basically that whole semester of when we first started dating, because I would be hanging out with you instead of going to class.
The golf pro life.
Yeah.
Making all that money.
Right. The life that everybody thinks is so glamorous, that's really not that glamorous. It's a hard life. It's definitely, when we started out, it was hard. It was a definite paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. And, then we moved to Charlotte, and my sister lived here. So, I knew someone in Charlotte, but, long hours. You were gone early in the morning till late at night. And so you had to just really, we were married, but did a lot of things on my own because you were at work all the time. So long 12-hour, 13-hour, sometimes 14-hour days if it was a member guest. And it was a hard time. It's definitely wasn't as glamorous as I thought it was when we would, go out, and I was in college and you had this big wad of cash in your money clip. Little did I know that was probably all the cash that you had to pay
100%.
all your bills, and everything.
Thought I was a high roller.
Yeah. So you,
$50 a
you
lesson.
lied to me, making me think that it was so much brighter and better. But, it was hard. It was a struggle at first, but you definitely have worked your way and, made a name for yourself, and everything that you have now, you've done for yourself, and the name you've made, you've done, you've had people to support you along the way, but you worked hard to get where you're at. That's for sure. I think that's why sometimes now when I see some of the younger, the younger golf professionals and teachers and that sort of thing, it's kind of hard for me to sit there and listen to them complain about how they don't get Sundays off, or they don't get a Saturday off, or they got to work on Monday. And I'm sitting there thinking, you have no idea. This guy used to work 7 days a week, holidays, Thanksgiving. I think the only day you really got off was Christmas.
Right.
And you were there all day, every day, not complaining, doing what you had to do to get where you wanted to be, not to get where you were going to get by somebody else. And I think sometimes I sit back and struggle when I see like that going on now. It's none of my business and I don't want to say anything, but I'm like, they only knew how it was back in the day. If they only really knew the struggles that, some of the older guys had to go through to get where they're at. There was no social media. There was no way to brand yourself and get it out there for everybody to see. So it was a lot of hard work.
Yeah, things have changed a lot over the years. I mean, in a good way. But yeah, it's, you feel old when you start giving that kind of advice to young professionals, but they probably get tired of hearing about what I've been through to like have some flexibility now and to kind of do what I want. Well,
and I think too, you went through it, but I went through it as well. I mean, even when we decided to have kids, it was, I knew we had been together, dated 3 years, and then we had been married 3 years.
Right. So it was about 5 or 6 years when we had Brittany.
So, when we decided to have kids, I knew that I was pretty much going to be a single parent. It was going to be my responsibility because you were, that was your role at the golf course, and you had to be there, and it was, required for you to be there. And so I knew a lot of it was going to fall on me to make sure that the kids, church and sporting events and making sure they were involved in those sort of things. And even when they were babies, that was probably the best part about your job, because you felt guilty that you never saw the kids. So you always did the nighttime feeding. So I always got to sleep through the night because you would. Which
is probably probably why I have insomnia now.
Yeah. You would always get up and do the nighttime feedings with the kids. So, cause that was really the only time when they were little that that you got to spend with them. So it was, it was hard. It was hard.
How's it changed over the years? What do you see, like looking from the outside now? And where do you kind of see it going? I think for the young coaches out there. I mean, I think the labor laws have definitely changed a lot. We talk about millennials obviously, and I think they get a bad rap, and because I've got two good guys working for me. But then you see some of the guys, like you said, they complain too much or maybe want to get to the top too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love Seth and Robbie, and I think they do great, but they whine and complain just like any of the other younger ones because, listen, it's hard work. It's not easy work. It's on, you're on all the time. If you're having a bad day, too bad. You can't go to work having a bad day because that's your business. That's your brand. So, I know it's hard, and I know everybody needs time off, but I think that not Robbie and Seth, I'm not saying them directly. I'm just saying like the younger guys coming up. I mean, I think it's a lot different. I think the fact that you have social media like you have, and you have all those forums and outlets to kind of build your brand up and get your name out there. I'm not going to say it's easier, but it's much more of a marketable industry now than I think it was back when you
can move up quicker for sure.
Back when you were coming through.
Yeah, no doubt. So tell the audience something that maybe they don't know about me or my road to success. Is there any stories that you can think of? Because I mean, like I said, we were having dinner last week, and we started talking about this a little bit, and I was just surprised at how much you remember, because you're so much better than me. I forget a lot of stuff, and then you're like, oh my gosh, remember that time you had to do this?
I mean, I think I remember it because I lived it. It
right.
was, it was all that was our life, and golf, it's funny because, you do have a daughter that probably some people don't know about, because
yes.
we always talk about,
she's the sane one.
We always talk about Nick, and Nick's a golfer and all that kind of stuff. But, Brittany always would say, why do every TV we have in the house, do I turn it on and it's on the golf channel? Why does everything have to be about golf? So, I don't know. I would say probably the one story that I think is hilarious, because I see you now and I see you doing speaking engagements and seminars and all that kind of stuff, is when we were dating. We were coming home one night. We'd been out, probably had too much to drink.
No way.
No, probably to it. We had too much to drink. and we're on our way home back to my parents' house, and we stopped at Taco Bell to get food on the way home, and you would not order through the drive-thru window because you were too embarrassed to hear your voice go through the microphone on the drive-thru window. So I had to yell across the seat and place our order at Taco Bell. I will never forget that, just because you used to be so shy and one of those people who kind of sits back and observes and only makes a comment when you feel like a comment's needed. Now, the older you've gotten, sometimes we have to say, what you think doesn't need to come out your mouth, Jason, but
bring it down a notch.
You've gotten older, but when you were younger, it was definitely a sit back and observe and maybe say something here or there. And I think a lot of people took you as being stuck up, snobbish, self-conceited, that sort of thing. But that really wasn't you at all. But that's just how I think you came across, just because you were so quiet. And so to see you now doing all these things you're doing, it's kind of amazing to just sit back and think about how you were 26 years ago to today, how much you've grown.
Yeah, that's the perception was always that way. And I went at Sleepy Hollow, almost got fired, or probably almost, literally had to go because people didn't think I would talk to him. I didn't say hello.
The superintendent used to live beside my mom and dad, and that was when my mom said something to him. Well, how do you like Jason? He's like, well, he's kind of snobby. He's kind of stuck up. He doesn't really talk. He's not super friendly. And then, getting to know you, they're like, that's so not him. But it's just because you were just so quiet. And our daughter is a lot like you. She's very quiet. And once you get to know her, she's not. But when you're initially getting to know her, she's very quiet, sits back and observes, and she'll let you know what she's thinking, that's for sure. But
she got that from you a little bit.
Yeah. But she will, when she's ready to let you know what she's thinking, that's when she'll let you know.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome. She took theater in high school, which I thought was a big. She had a lot more growth early on than I did, because I waited till I was almost 30 to where I thought.
Well, and I think she recognized, like, I need to be a little more vocal, and especially with this crew we have here. You got to be able to be heard. That's for sure. There's a lot of loud voices in our house, so I think she learned that early on.
Yeah, Nick's not afraid to talk and be social, and he got that, I think, from you.
He's been like that since he was a baby. We used to always joke. He would go home with the guy at Sitco if he's like, hey, you want to come hang out? And Nick would be like, yeah, sure. Yeah, what you got? What do you got at your house? Anything we can play with? So he's never met a stranger, that's for sure, which is a great quality to have. But, I don't know sometimes if that's, to be as young as he is, to have that quality. You have to kind of be a little bit more selective on who you want to let into your circle.
Yeah, he's a little trusting, right?
Know who to trust. Yeah. He wants the best for everybody, and, wants everybody to do good, and wants everybody to be, he's happy for everybody. And, I think it's a learning experience for him to be where he's at right now.
Definitely. Anything else you want to add about just being, like, speak to the wives out there that are married to teaching professionals or golf professionals before we move on? Well,
I don't know. I guess, a lot of marriages don't make it through because
high divorce rate. I know, right?
Because it's a hard life. It's not, like I was saying earlier, and kind of joking, but also serious. It's not as glamorous as most people think it is. Now the pay is better, of course, but
Right.
Before the pay was horrible, and
We went through some tough times.
we went through some hard times, and relied on, thank goodness my parents were around. We relied on them to, to help out a lot, because when we had kids, it was, an additional expense, and you were working like 60 hours a week. It wasn't like you could go get another job to kind of help make up to, when you were just starting out teaching. That was after you had decided that you were going to be a professional fly fisherman and create a fly fishing show on ESPN.
That was my backup plan.
Yeah, that was your backup plan before you started working at Dana's. That was your plan. So, yeah, that was an interesting conversation that evening we had, when we had to quickly say, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. You need to find a job. So,
right.
But,
yeah, that'd be an interesting perspective from when I left Northstone. I got bumped out of there, and which I call my greatest failure ever, because it really forced me to look at what I really wanted to do and what my passion was in the golf business. And, that's when I started pursuing, okay, I'm going to teach full time. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I mean, it would be interesting to hear your recollection of that time, because it wasn't easy.
Well, I think that, like you said, I think that was probably your greatest failure on a professional level and a personal level, because you, like your son, are very trusting, and again, wish the best for people, and would never do anything intentionally to hurt anyone or want anyone to not be successful. And I think you learned the hard way that maybe not everybody's like that, and just because you're like that doesn't mean that maybe the folks you have working for you or that you work with can be, can reciprocate that same philosophy to you. And I think that was probably a great learning experience for you on a personal level. And then, I think you could transition that into a professional level as well, because that's probably one of your biggest downfalls, is that you go into everything with your whole heart, and you give everybody your entire heart when you're, teaching them, or on a friendship level. That's just who you are. And sometimes you've been burnt, and it's hard.
No doubt.
And so, I think that was probably the early learnings for you, to maybe realize that, hey, maybe everyone's not like me, and I you don't want to be jaded, but you kind of have to a little bit, and say, I can't go in, I can't be everybody's friend. I can't make everybody happy. I can't give everybody what they want. I kind of have to look out for myself, because no one else is doing it. And that was probably your biggest hurdle you had to overcome, I think, because, and I still think to this day, sometimes, we get in arguments a lot about this, because,
right.
Not everybody's your friend, and not everybody sees things the same way you see it. And sometimes you have a hard time understanding that, because you see good in everybody, and you don't ever want to see bad in people, and not everybody's good, and not everybody has the same motives that you have. Sometimes people have different motives that maybe aren't as pleasant as the ones you have in your mind. So I think I think when you left Northstone, I think that was probably the best thing mentally, physically, professionally.
We'd probably be divorced if I was still there.
Or you'd be dead.
Yeah, I'd be dead.
Because you were working so much, and you weren't healthy, you weren't taking care of yourself. And so I think that was, and we had just had Brittany, and so it was a lot of changes in our life in a small period of time. So when you threw out you were going to do your fly fishing show on ESPN, we had to have a little come to Jesus and realize, no, we aren't going to be doing that. We're gonna get a career path going. So
I forgot about that, actually. Well, I knew that, but I didn't know that I probably wasn't very serious about it.
Oh,
good thing we didn't have social media at that time. I would have probably had a YouTube channel.
We had that was when we had dial-up internet, and I came home from work, and you had researched and you had printed off all this stuff to present to me, because you knew someone at ESPN on the fishing channel, and you just knew that this was going to be a great show. I have to laugh now, because you really put some effort into doing your research to present all that to me. And I think we probably didn't talk for about 3 days. and and then you decided to pursue being a full-time instructor.
Yeah, well, and then in the interim, I think I was day trading penny stocks.
Right.
That was another career.
Yeah, that's right.
That
You
didn't
were.
work out real well.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was. That's when the internet just started, and I was like, really.
Yeah.
I was killing it, making like $10 a day.
Well, we had so much money to invest at that point, so it was a great return.
I didn't have a big enough bankroll.
Yeah.
That's my downfall. Oh, that's awesome. Well, talk a little bit, because let's stay on the topic just for a minute. And I don't want to get too much into your job, but you're in corporate America, and I mean that's where I would love to have a little bit more of your character traits, as far as I think you're such a great leader and you're a really good manager. So tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll move on to another subject. But I think it's relevant because you definitely have a lot of experience in that realm, because I mean you've never been a stay-at-home mom.
No, I tried to.
Yeah, you tried to actually work and be a stay-at-home mom for a minute.
Tried to do that, and I was bored out of my mind.
But talk a little bit about your work history.
Well, I've always been in corporate America, and I've always been starting out I was on the insurance side. And I used to do severe bodily injury, personal liability claims. I did that probably until the kids were, till Nick was born, I think. And then after Nick was born, I took some time off because he had, we thought he had asthma and he would get sick. And so we just were like, daycare is just not for him. We just need to probably take some time off. So I took a year off. Well, I took time off not thinking it was going to be a year, but then it took me a year to find another job.
Right.
So I was always really on the insurance side, and then probably 12 years ago switched to more of the operation side, the finance side. So currently right now I manage like your retirement benefits. So when you retire, the people that I manage, we're the ones who get all your paperwork and get your monthly payments set up so that you can, live and have an income and that sort of thing. So
one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, I don't want to say.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to. Yeah. But you've managed the team for a while. I mean, a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've managed up to like 24 people domestically, and then I've had roughly anywhere from 25 offshore associates. So I mean, I've always been in a management role since, again, probably for about the last 17 years, I guess. So always have had people directly under me that, I've had to manage. So I'm just a little bit more mean than you are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's necessary. I wish I had a little bit more of that quality, because I'm such a people pleaser. I want everybody to like me, and that's just not how you have to be. I think like you said, the previous experience from my last head professional job has really helped me to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, I think for me, I have to realize that, I always try to take the approach with my staff, that I work for them, they don't work for me. So I'm there to make their job easier. So whatever they need, that's my role. That's how I'm supposed to, help them achieve what they have to achieve, and for us to meet our metrics and goals and all that kind of, shop talk. But I also have to understand that not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. And I can be a bitch. I know it. And then that's something I kind of pride myself on. And that's okay. I don't have to, everybody doesn't have to like me, and I don't have to like everybody, but we can respect each other. And I think that's kind of what I try to do every day that I go in, and have that mindset that you're not going to get along with everybody, and not everyone's going to like you, but in the end, you're going to walk out and you're going to be respectful. And I don't ever think that someone is higher than me or someone is lower than me. We're all there to work together. And just because my title might be different than yours doesn't mean that I'm better than you or you're better than me, or I'm worse than you or you're worse than me. So I've just always tried to take that approach in managing folks. And, I'm not going to say everybody who's worked for me has always loved working for me, but,
well, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. I think you have to get to that point in life where you're like, that's okay. I'm not here to please everyone. I'm here to do a job. And, I think that's where you and I differ a little bit, because
sure.
especially with your profession, it's harder too because you bring everything home with you. You have, we joke a lot about you might as well be a doctor because you're on call 24/7. I mean, people in their golf swings are like people with cancer. It's ridiculous how they want, they want to got to get in with you, got to see you. You're on vacation. People are texting you, hey, we're going to be driving through. No, you're not driving through Fripp Island in South Carolina. Okay, you don't drive through that. You're going to come down and you want to get a lesson. So, I mean, it's, you don't ever really, you can't really turn it off like I can.
Yeah,
I can
I'm on stage all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I can leave the office and come home and it's still going to be there for me when I get there in the morning, where hey, if you don't return that text, it might not be there for you when you get there in the morning. So
right.
It's, it's a little bit different. And that's probably been the source of some of our arguments in the past is, you got to separate family and work, and you've gotten so much better at that.
The balance. Yeah, I know. I have a struggle with that.
But you definitely struggle with that.
Yeah. It's just, like you said, it's my profession. It's like, I've got to have that light on all the time. It's tough. I mean, unless you're on this side, and like you said, it's difficult to understand, but it's the way it is.
Well, and I think it's because I see it, like we would be at a golf tournament for Nick, and you took off work to come to watch Nick play, but yet you're giving lessons to maybe some of your students who are at that same tournament for free. Let me just throw that in there, which was always another point of contention that you and I have,
right.
Because we like to do a lot of free 99 work here in our house. So, you would be teaching those students, and then here's Nick over here, you're there watching him. And, it's a hard line that sometimes you crossed and you shouldn't have, and you should have said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to book a lesson next week when I'm back at work. Not, you're not working all the time. And, I don't know that people really understand that and respect that boundary, because I think you allow them not to do that.
Yeah, I think I create that environment. Mm-hmm. I mean, I give everybody's got my number.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like to be accessible, but then obviously you got to turn it off at some point. Well, that's good. I mean, that's more than I thought you would give. So, but I think it's really helpful, because I'm sure I'm not alone out there. So let's talk about your role as a junior golf parent, because now we've got a son that's started playing, junior tournaments when he was about 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. Now he's a senior in high school, so we've run the gamut, and you've got another unique perspective of what that process looks like. I mean, you've seen every golf tournament just about. I mean, both of us have been very fortunate to be able to watch them play. And it's almost to an end. It's really sad, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And, I look back, like he was at a tournament a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, there was a lot of you're watching them warm up, and there were some younger kids there, and I'm just thinking, there's no way I could go back and do this all over again. I'm too old for this, and I don't think that I would be able to hold my tongue like I did in the early days and now. Just because golf parents are, they're worse than like dance moms. They are pageant moms. They are living vicariously through their children, that's for sure. And the expectation that they put on the kid is just heartbreaking when the kid doesn't meet that for the parent, and to see that interaction and parents walking off the golf course during a round of golf when their kid's not playing well, and it's just sad. And it's to your point, it is sad that it's almost over, but yeah. I'm ready for the next phase. I'm ready to go to the next realm, and hopefully it won't be like it has been through some of the junior golf tournaments that we've been in.
So when did you know? And again, this is like, you're not the coach, and you're not is into golf, but I think it's amazing of how much golf you've picked up, and you probably agree. You kid with Nick all the time. Is like, I know more than you think about
mean, I
the
don't
golf
know, I don't
swing,
know the
you know,
technical
just a little.
terms, but I can
Yeah,
call
yeah.
you and say this is what he's doing, and I can describe it to you, and you understand what I'm saying because you understand my golf language.
Right.
But I don't know the technical terms, but yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, good Lord, I used to caddy for you back in the day when you would try to play, and
Right.
so I've been around it a long time, and
So when did you know that? My question was, when did you know that Nick was going to be a good player and have an opportunity to play in college?
well, I think I really kind of realized things when he was in the sixth grade, and he had made the sixth grade middle school football team. And I'm just going to say I'm a football mom. I loved when he played football.
That was fun, wasn't it?
I mean, I'm the one screaming up in the crowd, hit somebody. And, I mean, I loved it. And so when he, when it came to where he wanted to be able to play golf and play football, and we, said, you gotta pick, because you can't give half to one and half to another. If you're going to play something, you're going to be committed. You're going to give 100%. You're not going to halfway do it. And then he chose golf, and
we were kind of hoping he'd choose football.
I really was, only because I mean we've his name, Nicholas Palmer, so we've set him up for failure already. So we used to joke all the time he was going to be a professional bowler because you named him Nicholas Palmer. So I also think what you do for a living, it would have just been easier if he would have been a football player, because as much as you want to pretend like you know about football, it would have just been easier for him to go that route. And really neither one of us, you played football back, when you were in middle school and high school a little bit,
Right.
but I think it would have just been an easier route where we wouldn't have had as much invested interest as we kind of do with the golf side of it. So I think I really knew when he was, I guess it was the summer of his sixth grade year going into seventh grade.
Because then he broke some records in middle school or something where we were like, okay, maybe he's got a little bit of talent.
Well, he was winning a lot of tournaments. He was winning a lot of junior tournaments, and he was playing against kids that were much older than him, and he was hanging right in there, and he
was tiny too.
he was little. He didn't hit a growth spurt until he was going into the ninth grade, the summer of his ninth grade year.
Mm-hmm.
That year he grew 11 inches.
Like 9 or 10 inches.
Some crazy amount of height he gained during that time. But I think I always knew that Nick, I mean, I know we're at the tail end of his, golfing in high school and that sort of thing. And I've always said, when it becomes not fun, then you need to stop. When it's not fun for you anymore and you're not going out there every day and you're not having fun doing it, and it becomes like a chore that you have to do, then that's when you need to stop. So for me, whatever happens for Nick in his, in his future with college, if he plays, if he doesn't play, that's up to him. That's whatever he wants to do and how he wants to pursue it and what he decides to do. I think you'll agree we'll both be here to support him in his decision.
For sure.
But the work ethic that child has is, unbelievable. And I think sometimes I used to get, when he was younger, I used to get frustrated because, people just automatically would assume, oh, he's good because look who his dad is. Or, oh, he's good because look where he can go practice. I mean, he's been very fortunate, and Carmel has been a great outlet for him, and they have been so kind to let him come and practice out there and play and get better, and the facilities are phenomenal, and he's been very fortunate, and he's definitely had more opportunities than you and I both together have probably ever had.
Yep.
But I used to get upset because I felt like people just assumed that he just took it for granted, and that you told him to go out there and practice. I don't think there's ever been a day that you've said to Nick, you need to go practice. I think there's been days that we've said to Nicholas, and that I've put his golf clubs in my trunk and said, you need to go to the swimming pool today and hang out with your friends.
Take a day off.
You weren't going to the golf course. Yeah. So I would get frustrated when people would say that. And I think that's, where you and I have to, have had to have those deep conversations about, when he plays bad in a tournament, he plays bad, and it's just not like, so maybe some of his other buddies who play bad all the time and it's just part of their daily routine. It wasn't like that for Nick. So if he went through a little bit of a slump this summer, And
well, don't get ahead of it.
okay, well, I'm just saying he went through a little bit of a slump, and so when he would play bad, it was different for him because he was there trying to make sure that he was, your brand was safe because you're his teacher, and he doesn't want people to think, oh, he's playing bad because you're his dad. And then sometimes you get a little salty with them
for sure,
and you become a little bit Abby Lee Miller at times when after a bad golf tournament, and I'm not gonna, that's something that I will not, and I think I've made that clear to you both, that I won't tolerate that. I won't tolerate you being mad at each other. That's not what this is about. And that's not going to make you all any better, you as a coach and him as a player, or you as a dad and him as your son. So it's been a fine line, I think, but I think Nick is, I think that he's just, he's a different kid. He's a different.
Well, that's what the question I was going to ask is just from your perspective as a mother, how would you describe Nicholas? Like, what kind of kid is he? And we've covered work ethic. But...
Nick's a lot like you with a little me sprinkled in there. He probably has more of my personality, I think, where he's very talkative, very engaging. He's always been like that, even from a young age. He, like I said earlier, never met a stranger. And to your point, the work ethic is something I don't think you will ever see in a kid who is 9 or who is 17. There were days in the summer that before he, could drive, and before his sister had her license, and before Uber came into play, that he would get up in the summer with you at 7:30 in the morning, and he would go to Carmel and stay all day till you got done at 7 o'clock at night. Calloused hands, blisters, Yep. It was, his work ethic is, I don't even know I don't know a word to put on that, and I think a lot of it has to come with determination, and grit, and just a lot of moxie. He just really, that's just him. And personality wise, he's a very social kid, he's very, very, very social. And I wouldn't necessarily say he's outgoing, but he's not afraid.
Right.
And he has just always been an outdoor kid. He's never been a kid who's like going to hang out inside and play video games.
He's not playing Fortnite.
He's not. No, he's not going to do that. He's just, when he was little, literally outside from the time he would get up until he would come in for dinner. And outside playing all day long, making up games in the yard, just right. Very, imaginative when it came to things like that. And it probably didn't hurt that, his sister was probably the polar opposite. She was the one who was going to, all summer, she was going to read, 72 books because that was the goal she had set for herself. So, I think our kids are both very determined, just in different avenues. Brittany's was definitely academic. Mm-hmm. And, she could
have been a player.
She could have been a golfer, but she didn't have the competitive nature that Nick has. That's not her. She's not gonna get into all that. Where Nick, he's competitive in golf, but I think that's why he didn't last in football, because he was the kid who would tackle you and then go over and pick you up and go, "Are you okay? Are you still going to come over tonight? We're still going to hang out."
He's making friends with the lineman in front of him.
He never wants to hurt anyone's feelings or make anybody feel bad about anything. And, I think that's what he gets. He gets that definitely from you, where Brittany and I both are kind of like, it is what it is. Like us or not, we don't, we can't make you like us, and it's not going to bother me if you don't like me. Where you and Nick are bothered by that, I think.
What lessons have you learned being a junior golf parent that you could share with other parents? Like, let's say you got a kid that wants to start playing tournaments. What are some of the things that you would say that junior golf parents need to pay attention to? Maybe some do's and don'ts. And you already mentioned I always tell people I'm a way better coach than I am a junior golf parent.
Yeah,
I own that. So you can definitely
Yeah.
use some of my poor examples of after round.
Oh, it's not even after round. It can be during the round, and I have to look at you and say, fix your face. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I don't even, people probably think we're divorced at golf tournaments because we don't walk together. You walk ahead, or I walk ahead, you walk, like we don't, or we can either be walking ahead together, but we're not together. You might be on one side and I'm on the other
Yeah.
because well, first of all, neither one of us really like to talk during the golf tournament.
Right.
We're not all about the chit chat.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of learning experiences people probably could gain from you, just maybe watching
The
you
wrong thing to do.
watching you at a tournament, regardless if he's playing good or bad. It's still the same facial expressions. It's still the same. So, I mean, I probably would say the most important thing is don't force your child to do something, because if you force them to do it, then it's not going to be fun and they're not going to want to do it. I mean, they have to want to do it. And I think you have to be encouraging. I don't think you want to they put enough pressure on themselves. I don't think you need to put any pressure on them. And when they play bad, they're not playing bad because that's what they decided to do that day. They're playing bad because they're having a bad day. Everybody has a bad day. It's just any sports team has a bad day. It's just in golf, you're the only one there. So your bad day is magnified because it's on you. It's not, you can't blame it on, oh, well, this guy didn't tackle this guy and that's why they scored a touchdown. It's on you. So it's a very individual sport, and I think you have to, as a parent, be supportive of your child, because it's sad. When they have a bad day, it's a bad day. And I think that was something that Nick was always so good about, that you struggled understanding. Is he could have a bad day and 20 minutes in the car and he's like, well, what are we doing for dinner tonight? Where are we going to go? What are we going to do this? And you would be home sulking, probably on suicide watch. And, and Nick.
Or I would be wanting to go through the round, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just the things that I've learned
Yeah.
not to do is to let the child tell you about their round when they're ready, which, I mean, for Nick, it was like 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've learned that lesson very, very early, is like, I want to go, because I come at it from, one, I can hit the shots that he's trying to hit.
Well, you
Two,
think you can.
Well,
Let's be real.
And two,
you seem to think that you can. That's part of the problem.
Easy, guy.
And
two, I'm the coach too, so I'm looking at it from a coach's perspective. Like, I want to go through it and go, all right, what were you thinking on this hole? And then he's not ready to talk, so then we end up getting into an argument.
Well, and I think that's where I always came into play as the mediator moderator.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that too.
I think that's where you have to, I think as a parent, you have to let the kid, they're out there playing golf. We've said this to Nick many times. I didn't hit one shot. So don't be mad at me, because I'm not mad at you. Don't be upset. And you see that with like when you're at the tournaments and you see things that happen, and you see, like I said earlier, you see parents walk off in the middle of a round, or you see parents bribing their kids, like, if you do this, I'll get you this. And it's not about that. And to me, Nick picking up the game of golf has taught him so much more than winning. I think he's learned more lessons by not having great rounds and maybe losing some golf tournaments. And it's such a character building sport, because it is only you out there, where other sports is a team sport, and a lot of kids, I don't think, really can be accountable for their own actions, because they can hide behind maybe somebody else's fault. And when you're playing golf and you're the only one out there swinging the club, it's a little bit different. You have to own what you're doing. And I think as a parent, you just have to be supportive. That's my biggest thing. I think if I could say anything to anyone, it's, be supportive and don't question what they're doing. Let them learn from their mistakes. That's the only way they're going to grow. And it's just going to make them, even, not even on a player side, it's just going to make them such a better person, because they're going to experience things and create life lessons that they might not realize right now. But as they get older, they're going to be able to look back, and they're going to be able to, bounce back from things a lot quicker than probably some of their kids will be able to. And I think parents just need to set back and not make it about them. That's what I see so much, and that's what I've seen so much in the junior golf. It's not about the kids, and you can't blame the kids for some of their behavior, because it's learned behavior at that age. You're learning from your parents. So You're a product of your environment.
Yeah, you tend to see the bad kids have the weird parents.
Or you see the kids who just are really sad because their parents are so rude and ugly, and they realize it, but they're just the kid. They can't really control what the parent's doing. So, I think it's your behavior, the way you carry yourself out there as a parent. People see that. I think college coaches see that.
Body language.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. And your kids see it. Like what I was saying earlier, like if they hit a bad shot, they don't need you to like slap your legs and walk briskly ahead, or put your head down and shake your head, or do this little thing where you put your hand up around your lip and you hold your other hand with your other arm and you're thinking. I mean, not saying that anyone in this conversation does that, but they pick up on your mannerisms and they know them, and you may not even realize, because I'm talking on experience here, that they pick up on it and that you even do that.
I never realized, even like at the end, like in the last few months, last tournament this year, he finally told me, "Won't you walk ahead? Because I hate this look at your face after I hit a bad shot." And I was cool with that. I was just like, wow, I wish I'd have known that before. He finally told me, he's like, "Just walk ahead. I don't want to see you." Like I never even thought he looked at me. What I mean? That's a thing.
I think that you don't realize what your facial expression is.
I'm sure.
I'm not saying that I can't. Everything is written all over my face. I don't hide my feelings well.
Yeah.
But
I was just shocked that the fact that he actually did pay attention to what I was.
Well, sure.
Aside from in between holes, I'm just talking about, after shots, I didn't realize I'm like, my kid doesn't do that. Like he doesn't, what does he need to do that for? But that's probably a huge lesson you can share with the listeners, is just body language.
Oh yeah.
And it's so hard. Like you said, fix your face.
I mean, that's our thing. Like
you always tell me, like, oh, okay, all right, try to like be stone.
And even if I'm ahead and his shot's a little squirrely, I'll text you and go fix your face, because I already know what your face is doing. I mean, and it's it's golf parents are no joke. I'm telling you, they are no joke. It's almost sad.
Give us your funniest story. You don't have to name names, because I know a lot of people are probably listening to this.
I'm not going to do that.
We've seen some stuff.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, we've gotten into a few arguments with other parents, and it's been a crazy journey.
I will say probably the worst thing that has ever happened during a golf tournament is someone accused Nicholas of cheating. And that was, and they just said it repeatedly, and I tried to ignore it. And then finally I looked at you and I'm like, okay, it's on. Like, you aren't going to call my kid a cheater.
Yeah. And it was a very simple rule.
And he wasn't cheating.
Yeah. It wasn't even
close
it wasn't
to
even
cheating.
Questionable. Like it was a drop.
And
it wasn't even questionable. Yeah. That was, and I ended up getting in a confrontation, which that had to be bad, because I'm the most confrontational person on the planet.
And I think, that was probably the worst experience, just because now you're questioning my credibility, because I've raised my child, and my child knows right from wrong, and he's never cheated. I mean, if he was going to cheat, don't you think he'd be shaving some strokes off on some of his rounds he's had high?
Yeah.
He's not,
We post scores.
We post scores. We don't quit.
Yeah.
And there's been some rounds this past summer that I have been like, Nick, you don't feel good?
Your leg hurting?
But that's not how we've raised our kids. And I think you and I both can attest that wasn't how we were raised. You start something, you finish it. Whether it's good or it's bad, you're going to finish it, and you're going to own it, and you'll move on, and you'll be stronger from it. But I think that was probably the one thing that really got me the worst, was when, someone said he was that he had cheated because he didn't do the drop the correct way, and it wasn't even correct. And and then you realize when you go to that point where you're going to protect your child and defend your child, and you're talking to this person and you're like, they are crazy. Like, why am I doing this?
Well, this is the guy that yelled at his kid after every hole anyway. So he's like screaming at his child, which is amazing to me.
We're just kind of like, why? And we both were like, why in the world would we have even engaged in that? But you get sucked into it.
Yeah, you do.
And so,
well, you just can't have that. I mean, because we know how that reputation spreads, and it's just not right.
And if there's anything that we have based our raising of our children on is honesty and integrity and trustworthiness and loyalty. And when someone questions those core values that we have, then that's when Mama Bear is going to come out, and I'm not going to take it.
How's the recruiting process from your perspective been? So now that we're sort of getting to the end of it, and hopefully it's going to be over here soon. And we're still non-committed.
We're non-committed.
We'll throw that out, but
I think we'll just leave it at that, because Nick's been very adamant with us both about not telling his business and not saying who he's talking to, who he's interested in.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that.
And we're not. But I don't even think that's what that's what your question is. I mean, your question to me is, how's it been? And it's been stressful, and it's been hard, and it's been sad sometimes to watch Nick sit back and be such an advocate and a cheerleader for others who have committed, and thinking that he is going to get that same reciprocated to him, and it doesn't happen. And so I think that Nick has learned a valuable lesson this year. When you're playing good, everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody wants to hang out with you. Everybody wants to go to dinner with you. Everybody wants to, to do whatever. When you're not playing so good, then you really realize who your friends are, and you realize who your buddies are. And I think, Nick has learned some life lessons this summer. I think you have learned some additional life lessons this summer. Sure. And, I think Nick's realized, who he is as a person, and who he wants to be, and who he wants to associate himself with. And he's okay with that. He's okay with, maybe everybody's not my friend. Maybe everybody's not who I thought they were. Maybe everybody's not how I am. But it's hard that at 17, you have to learn that. Because you raise your child to be that person that when they walk out of the room, other people go, wow, that's a good kid, or wow, he's very nice, he's very polite. You don't want your kid to walk out of a room and people go, wow, he's a jerk, he's just like his dad, or he's just like his mom. You want they're an example that you've set, and that's how you want it to be. And so that's how we have always raised Nicholas, and Nick's always been always carried himself very well. And so through this recruiting process, and people getting offers and making decisions and that sort of stuff, and then you see the cattiness from the kids' side, and you see the cattiness from the parent side, and then you see, oh, we'll talk to you this tournament, we won't talk to you that. I mean, it's just, I'm just over all of that, honestly. And I'm, I tried to, explain to you early on, like, this is a business. This is like right now, this is a business. Yeah,
we've been. It started when he was in 7th grade, basically. Yeah. When he started getting letters and emails.
You always are gonna have. I think Nick has always had, people who maybe wanted to know him for who he is and who his dad is, and again, not everybody is as loyal and as faithful as you would hope that they would be, and I think this summer, I think this summer's been it's been a character building summer for him, and I think he has come out the other end probably much better than either one of us would have.
Amen. Yeah, so, he handled it way better than I did, I know. And
I mean, I think
it's been a tough summer.
It's been a tough summer, but I think that he has, we're a faithful family, and that's something that I think those values we've instilled in our kids. And I think this summer, I had lots of conversations with Nick about, his beliefs and his faith and trusting and believing and that sort of thing. And I think, this summer he's realized that, God's already made his plan. He just hasn't revealed it yet, and he'll reveal it when he's ready. And until you're patient and trusting and believing, then he's not going to reveal it. And I think Nick's realized that. And I think the outcome of the struggles that he has this summer has made his faith so much stronger. And that makes me so much happier for him, because all of this wasn't for naught. It was for something. And if it's for this amazing scholarship and golf future in college that he's going to get, or if it's because it has strengthened his faith to where he needed it to be, then either way, to me, it's a win-win.
It's very well put.
So, I mean, I think that's, to me, that's been the biggest life lesson that we've had this summer, is just I've seen his faith, him grow in his faith so much more than he ever would have if he didn't have to believe and believe in his faith.
100%. Yeah, that's well put. So let's talk about the unusual coach-dad relationship, because it's not normal. I mean, and I've got my views on it, obviously, but I want to hear from your side, because I don't think we would be in such a good place. I'm talking about, me being a coach and Nick being the son, or being the player, and then dad-son relationship, because I think we've gotten so much closer this year than we ever have, if it wasn't for your guidance and mediation. So,
well, I mean, I think it's that's probably been the hardest to me. That's probably been the hardest job that I've had. It's, it's hard because, like you said, you are his coach, he is your student, but first and foremost, you're his dad and he's your son.
Right.
And I think
so let's start from the beginning, because I think there's some definite life lessons here, but also some lessons for parents out there that, I mean, we can even just go as far as like, what do you look for in a coach, but also just from this situation that some people can learn from. So even when he was little, I remember like it was yesterday, it was probably, he was like 11 or 12 years old, maybe 13. I'm trying to think, when we had the big blow up, and then the meeting.
That was when he was 13.
When we had the meeting. So talk about the meeting that we had, because you called the meeting. Yeah,
I sent a text message to you both, and I said family meeting tonight at the kitchen table, because he had a tournament and he had played well in the tournament. It wasn't like he played bad, but you wanted to go through. You didn't, at that particular tournament, you came late because you had to work on a Saturday, so you came late, and you wanted to go through hole by hole by hole. And also, if you remember, that was also a tournament that you came late, got there late on a Saturday, and you had 2 students that were playing in that tournament, and they didn't play well, and so you took them to the driving range to help them. And there was Nick. He was at the driving range with you, but you weren't helping Nick. And so, you being able to be the dad and to be the coach it's been a struggle. But I think when we had that meeting, we sat down and I said to Nicholas, I said, listen, I'll take you to somebody else. I'll take you to another coach. That's fine. But you have to understand what kind of teaching and instruction you're going to get, because you're going to get what we can afford to pay for. And, for us, we have been fortunate in that aspect that we haven't had to pay for the lessons, and Nick's been fortunate. He's a title of staff, junior staff member, so we got help there. And so it's hard to kind of put it in to perspective unless you lived through it, because when you're a golf coach and your students at a tournament and the tournament's over, then it's over. But for you as a coach and the type of person you are, when you're at a tournament and the tournament's over, it's not over, because you want to figure out what they did wrong or what they did right. You want to talk about it. You want to get their perspective. And, there were lots of times where Nick just wasn't ready, or he was 13. He just didn't care enough to talk about it. It was over.
Well, and he was still processing.
Well, and you live in the moment at 13. You don't, once you're out of that moment, you've moved on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And, thankfully for Nick, that's how he's wired. He's
very short. Yeah, he's got a very short-term memory,
it's amazing.
Which is amazing to me too. Yeah.
And so
bounces back pretty quick.
So for you to be able to understand that, I think what I always said to you was, you're the coach when he's not playing in a tournament. When he's playing in a tournament, you're his dad.
Mm-hmm.
You're there to support him. You're there to like cheer him on. Even if it's a sucky shot, you're there to go, come on, you got this, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there to go, you're not there to like, again, have the ugly face or whatever. And then after the tournament, if he comes to you and wants help, then you help him as a coach, but you can't force it on him. And I think that's where you finally got to that point. You finally realized that, but it took us a minute to get there.
Yeah. Well, and I remember from that meeting, one of the big things is you were like, all right, I'm going to let both of you talk.
Yeah.
Like, tell me your
perspective.
Your perspective. Yeah. And the big thing that I got from that meeting was he said, Dad, you don't treat me like you treat the other kids. And here he is playing against I was teaching
a lot of
juniors that were playing against him, which is a tough deal to begin with. And then he said, like, you weren't treating me the same. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I didn't realize that, I'm giving him like 15 minutes in between lessons or just, walking on the range. Yeah. And he goes, well, they're scheduling lessons and you're doing an hour lesson and you're doing this follow-up stuff with them and you're texting him and doing this stuff. I'm like, you're right. So that was the big thing. Like, all right. And then we started scheduling lessons every week, whether he needed it or not, just to spend time.
Well, and I think
in my presence,
scheduling those lessons was huge, but also, we had to you had to realize that Nick probably, his golf IQ is much higher than any other kids because that's all he does.
Yeah, well, he watches me give.
He talks it with you.
Probably more
he talks
lessons.
It with your friends who come in. Amazing instructors that come in and visit. He's got the exposure to them, and so he can carry on a golf conversation like a golf pro could. He's very golf knowledgeable. So, sometimes when you would be teaching him a lesson, he would question what you were doing. So then we had to have another round table where we had to say, if you're going to do these lessons with your dad, you're not going to, if you were with another coach, would you question everything he's saying? No, you would do it.
He was a difficult student at times.
He was a very difficult student. And so once we got past that hurdle and once he realized, oh, maybe my dad does know something. I think once you got top 100, then he was like, oh, maybe he does know what he's talking about.
Well, and his friends would remind him that too.
Yeah.
Like, you're so lucky that your dad's like a top coach. And
that
was kind of helping me a little bit.
It was helping you a little bit, but it was also a little bit of a double-edged sword because, his dad's a top 100 coach. So, we're good when he's shooting low scores. But when he has a high round, like, what the heck? Your dad's a top 100 coach. You can go to Carmel. You can do this. And, that is Nick's had a different experience in the junior golf realm than most kids have because of who his dad is and who his coach is. And so it's been harder. And I think you didn't really realize that until we had the round table discussion. And I brought that up, that the pressure he puts on himself for who you are is pressure that no other kid out there playing puts on themselves. So it was definitely hard, but I think that I'm a big communicator, so I like to make sure that we might get mad at each other, but once it's done, it's over. I'm not going to sit there and fret on it. We're going to move on. And, I think getting you on board to do that has been probably a bigger struggle than getting Nick on board to listen during your lessons. So, I think it's, it was hard, but I think it created a bond that you and Nick have that is on a totally different level than just a dad, father. I mean, you guys are probably best friends. I mean, it's kind of sickening sometimes.
Yeah, we're definitely.
So next year's gonna be harder on you than it is on me, I think. Because
you had to bring that up.
Because I went through it when Britt went to college, and you were kind of like looking at me like, you're crazy, and I'm thinking, just wait.
Yeah, wait till Nick leaves. I'm gonna be I'll lose my little buddy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought, the thing, going back to that meeting, and one thing we started doing is just, literally verbalizing when we did the lessons, okay, I'm putting the coaching hat on. Mm-hmm. That seems silly, but I've shared that with other friends of mine and coaches. I'm like, that's brilliant, because you got to flip the switch. Mm-hmm. And for me, that I'm so like tunnel visioned. I've got to flip the switch and go, okay, well, I got to do the dad stuff this now. I got to do the coach stuff now. And I'd get his acknowledgement and go, yes, sir. He'd be like, yes, sir, I'm ready to learn. That was our deal. It was like, I got the coaching hat on. Are you ready to learn? Yes, sir.
Well,
If not, we'd be like sort of half-assing it through the lesson where we're talking about other stuff, or he's wanting to do what he wants to do, which is very common, and just like any other student. But it's really, those boundaries are very difficult.
Well, and I think it also came to light for him when I said, "You're done. You're not. Your dad's not teaching anymore. We're going to go someplace else." And I said, "This is your options. This is who we can afford." And he goes, "Are you kidding me? I'm not. I'm not going to anybody but Dad." I'm like, "Well, then you better buck up, cowboy, because this is how it's going to be, or this is where you're going to go." And so, he's a typical teenager, and sometimes you have to kind of put it in perspective for him to really grasp a hold. And sometimes I have to get a little ugly for him to realize that we mean business. And so, I think that probably was a turning point too, when he kind of realized, oh, okay, yeah, maybe he does know what he's talking about. Maybe I should listen to him.
Yeah, that actually that makes me smile when he says that, because it's not very often when he actually gives me a compliment. So that's cool. All right, anything else to add on that? You want to try a couple of these rapid fire questions before we wrap up?
I mean,
you're gonna give it. This would be more personally for you.
Oh, we don't need to do rapid fire.
You don't think so?
I'm not that interesting.
Oh, come on. I'm gonna give you a couple of these. Good. A couple of these won't be too bad. So in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life the most?
I'll go back to my example I used in this past summer. Again, we've always been a faithful family, and that's something that we, definitely have taught our kids. But seeing Nick's faith come into play this summer really made my heart happy, because it really made me feel like, yeah, we've done a good job, and we've given him the tools that he needs to get through life lessons and get through them stronger on the other side, and understand that, there's somebody else upstairs pulling the strings. It's really, you don't really have anything to do with it. You just have to go with it and understand that you'll be better on the other side. And so I think that's probably seeing my faith through him was a big turning point for me this summer.
Definitely. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, or you've lost focus temporarily, what do you do, or what do you tell yourself?
I'll probably come home and have a honey whiskey and take a hot bath and just sit by myself for a little while and kind of regroup, and then, move on. You can't dwell in the past. You can't dwell on things that have happened, and a lot of things you don't have control over. And I think once you get to a stage in your life where you just realize that, and you realize that, you have to move on, and you can't harbor, and you just got to move forward. It's not that you don't care, but you almost have to have that attitude, like, okay, it is what it is. I gotta move on. And so that's probably my go-to relax: honey whiskey and a hot bath with a bath bomb.
It's pretty good. All right, couple more. Let's see. I had this one I was going to ask you. Oh, I love this one. When's the last time you cried tears of joy? Aside from the day you married me.
Well,
post-marriage. And maybe you cried tears of like sadness on that day, but
I think the last time I really cried tears of joy was when the day we dropped Brittany off at college, because I had such a peace over me. I was sad. I was going to miss her. I was, like, we're buddies, and we argue like sisters, but she's, still one of my everythings. And so I think the day that we left her at her dorm, and she was by herself and on her own, and, leaving her with a sense of she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine because I raised her. I raised her right. She's my child. I know she's going to do great things. I don't have any concerns whatsoever that she's going to make a bad decision. Is she going to do stupid things? Yeah, probably. She's our kid. But, I don't think, well, I left there not thinking that she wasn't ready and well prepared to be on her own. And so that was probably, I cried a lot.
Yes, you did.
I cried a lot that weekend.
I actually shed a little tear there, which was.
But they were sad tears, but they were also
Right.
happy tears at the same time.
It's cool to watch them grow up.
Yeah, it really is, and to see what she's turned, how she's turning things around in her life and
She's
making
doing
things
so
and
well.
doing stuff, and just such an independent person. That just makes my heart happy that she's where she's at. And I kind of look back and go, wow, we did a pretty amazing job with our kids. I mean, they're pretty good kids, that's for sure.
Really good. Very fortunate. All right, last one. This is
Okay.
always the closer. If you could have a gigantic billboard with anything on it, anywhere, to get a message out to millions or billions of people, what would it say and why?
Oh my God, I don't know.
You have such great quotes and
Yeah, but those are
sayings.
quotes. I mean,
Yeah, just give us your favorite quote. Just the first thing that comes to mind. You're always doing quotes for your staff.
I know, but I don't know. I think, for me, I think our marriage is based on, our family and the love that we have for each other and our kids. And, I think my role in the family has always been to make sure that, everything was taken care of and the kids had what they needed. And, your role, I knew early on, was your career. You're very career minded. Not to say that you're not family oriented. I'm not saying that, but that was your focus. So I knew my focus had to be the family and had to be raising the kids. And so I probably would, my sweet little babies would probably be on that billboard, and it would probably just kind of say faith, love, and family, I think. Because that to me, in the end, that's really all that matters. Like, it doesn't matter all the material things we have and the bigger house we get and the nicer cars we get. Those are all great and those are all fine to have. But in the end, when I'm gone, I want my kids to be able to be well-rounded, respected, contributing to society individuals who, treat people with respect and they honor what they're supposed to honor and they love the way they're supposed to love. And, I think to me that's the most important thing. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm on a top 100 list. It doesn't matter if I get 1,001 rewards or awards. It's, my providing my kids what I want them to be and how I want them to be known and how I want to be remembered.
Your top 100 in my book.
So what's your legacy? When you're gone, what do you want your legacy to be? I think it goes back to a sermon we had this past summer where Preacher Mike asked that question during a sermon. And it really, I think, it was such a needed sermon to hear. And I think that's really when it put things into perspective for me. Of course you say your kids are your legacy, but how do you want, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I helped more people along the way to get everything they wanted. I wanted my kids to be proud of me. That's the big, first and foremost. It seems silly, but I want you and my kids to be proud of what I've accomplished. And then I want to just say, hey, when they put me in the ground, I'm in the big divot, that I helped more people along the way, and I left the game of golf or the golf instruction business better than I found it. That's my main focus, and I'm all about legacy. That's what I dream of. Is it's not about me, it's about how many lives did I affect while I was on the earth.
Right. I think that kind of full circles what I said earlier, that your role in the family is your career.
Yeah.
Or my role in the family is
100%.
the family.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we work so well together because we both realize our positioning and we're okay with it,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're okay with it.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Love you.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you jump off. First, big thank you to my wife, Tiffanie, for coming on the show. That was not easy. We've been talking about this for a while, and I knew that she would create tremendous value for the listeners out there. So let me know what you learned from this conversation. I may not want to know that, but I want to get feedback from you guys. I want to hear from you. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know how I can improve. Follow and reach out to me on Instagram and Twitter at Golf Guru TV and let me know what's up. Send me a question if you have any questions about the show or you have a question that you want me to cover on the show. We're going to try to bring back the Guru Friday episode here real soon. And you can email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com, where I will use a fake name or you can make one up. No problem. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show were produced by myself. Music is brought to you by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. Leave me an iTunes review or a rating. Let me know how I'm doing. As always, I leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn quote that I love and live by. Study with all the information at your fingertips. As the late, great Jim Rohn said, there is no excuse for being stupid. Practice. Learn something new. Test it out on your own game or your students. See if it holds up. And then lastly, teach. Teach, which means share it with other coaches, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies. But always give credit to the original source and then pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.